අද්විතීය 200 Mbps ස්පීඩ් එකකින් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ වේගවත්ම සහ පුළුල්තම හෝම් බ්‍රෝඩ්බෑන්ඩ් සම්බන්ධතාවය වන SLT Mobitel දේශීය ෆයිබර් බලවේගය ඔබත් අදම අත්විඳින්න.
හරිම සුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9 this Monday the 7th of August 2023. Hydro door. Minister Kanchana Wijesekara assures that despite water being redirected for agriculture, power supply will remain uninterrupted. Trincomalee tragedy. Tragedy today as two pilots lose their lives in a deadly crash shortly after takeoff in Trincomalee. Iran promises. Minister Ali Sabri concludes a fruitful discussion with the Iranian Premier after a day of discussions which sees Iran pledge its support for future industry development. Typhoon Kanoon. Tropical storm Kanoon threatens havoc at South Korea's World Jamboree.
We are in close contact with our contingent, the management, and we are assisting as required. They will be coming starting from tomorrow. Right now they are in the Jamboree site, but they are all okay. The latest update we got is all our scouts are in good health and they are all
Alliance Finance මෙතුරු රන්නයි සේවාවෙන් රන් පවුම්කට රුපියල් 1,70,000ක ඉහළ අධිකාරම.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දිනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
This is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and a warm welcome to today's edition of AdaDerana's English News. First at 9, I'm Jonathan Benedict and we take a look at your top story right now. Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara confirmed today that Cabinet has granted approval to a proposal submitted and consequently maximum water will be released from the Samanalawava reservoir whilst ensuring an uninterrupted supply of power island-wide without any power cuts. Approximately 3.5 million cubic meters of water per day are to be released from the reservoir while ensuring maximum possible hydro generation. The minister further said that the water in the Samanalawava reservoir will be released from August 8th till the 15th and will be closed for power generation. The Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal submitted by the Minister of Power and Energy to ensure an uninterrupted supply of power island-wide without any power cuts while releasing the maximum water levels possible from the Samanalawava reservoir held for agricultural purposes. It was decided that approximately 3.5 million cubic meters of water per day would be released from August 8th to August 10th from Samanalawava, generating maximum possible hydropower. From August 11th to August 15th, another 2.5 million cubic meters of water per day will be released while generating maximum hydropower possible. From the 16th of August, the reservoir will be shut down, preserving the dead storage of water of the dam or the volume of water that is below the level of the spillway or any other outlet. The minister said that by the 15th of August, alternative power generation from available power plants will be procured.
විශේෂයෙන්ම විදුලිය ලබා දීම සඳහා විකල්ප යෝජනාවලට යන්නත් ඒ වගේම සමනල වැවෙන් ජලය නිකුත් කරලා කෘෂි කර්මාන්තය ආරක්ෂා කරන්නත් කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය තීරණය කරනවා. ඒ අනුව හෙට උදෑසන 3 ඉඳන් අපි ජලය සමනල වැව ජලාශයේ සිට MCM 3.5 ගානේ දවස් 3කට අපි නිකුත් කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. විශේෂයෙන් සමනල වැව බලාගාරයේ උපරිම ධාරිතාව තියෙන MCM 3.5යි ආසන්න වශයෙන් අක්කර අඩි 2850කට ආසන්න වෙවත්තයි උපරිම ධාරිතාව. ඒ උපරිම ධාරිතාවය අපි දවස් 3කට අපි ලබා දෙන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. ඉදිරි අවශ්‍යතාවය අපි වාරි මාර්ග දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවත් එක්ක සාකච්ඡා කරලා අවශ්‍ය උපරිම ධාරිතාවය ලබා දෙන්න අපි කටයුතු කරනවා. ඒ වගේම අනිත් පැත්තෙන් අඛණ්ඩ විදුලියක් ලංකාවටම ලබා දෙන්න අවශ්‍ය කටයුතු අපි සිදු කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
Meanwhile, Minister Wijesekara confirmed that there will be no price revision on electricity as government policies to revise electricity tariffs 2 times annually, once in January and once in July. The tariff was revised earlier last month and a 14.2% tariff reduction proposed by the Ceylon Electricity Board across all categories was approved. Minister Wijesekara further tweeted that currently there are no planned power cuts as power plants that are available to generate electricity are running on full capacity and there will be no uninterrupted power island-wide. He also commented on the construction of the 220 kilowatt transmission line at a length of 150 kilometers from Polpitiya to Hambantota, which received cabinet approval in 2018. The project has been on halt for 3 months due to a dispute over the government valuation of a 650-meter stretch of land in which the lines are connected through.
Minister Vijay Sekhar said discussions to settle the dispute between landowner and CEB to complete the Asian Development Bank finance project has been set for the 11th of August by the Public Utilities Commission. He further stated that the CEB has already paid 2,500 other individuals compensation on government valuation and completed the work in the 150-kilometre stretch over those areas. And if the dispute is settled, work can be completed in 4 days.
In other news, tragedy struck a routine training exercise today when a training aircraft that took off from the Sri Lankan Air Force Academy in China Bay Airport, Trincomalee, crashed this morning. The tragedy claimed the lives of both Air Force personnel who were on board the aircraft. The aircraft crashed while conducting a test flight following the repair of an engine defect shortly before noon today. Following the accident, a special committee was appointed by the Air Force commander to investigate the accident.
PT-6 aircraft, which is used to train pilots at the No. 1 flying training wing of the Sri Lankan Air Force Academy, China Bay, had taken off from the China Bay airstrip around 11:25 a.m. this morning for a test flight. However, 2 minutes later, the aircraft crashed in the vicinity of the Sri Lankan Air Force camp at around 11:27 a.m., killing both officers who were on board. The deceased pilot, Wing Commander Tharindu Herath, who was a father of 3, joined Sri Lanka Air Force in 2006 following the completion of his primary and secondary education from Malayadeva College in Kurunegala. Meanwhile, the deceased flying officer engineer Peshan Varnasurya was a product of St. Anne's College in Kurunegala. He joined General Sir John Kotalawala's Defence University in 2017 to its 35th intake and later joined Sri Lanka Air Force as an aircraft engineer. Immediately after the accident, Air Force Commander Air Marshal Udeni Rajapaksa arrived at the crash site for an inspection. He further appointed a special committee to probe into the plane crash.
Iranian President Dr. Ibrahim Raisi expressed Iran's interest in sharing its capabilities with Sri Lanka, adding that nations such as Sri Lanka have great potential in making progress which could pave the way for the country's growth and prosperity. During a meeting with the Iranian President in Tehran, Minister of Foreign Affairs Ali Sabri announced the government's enthusiasm in expanding cooperation between the two countries in fields of economy, technology and medicine.
Minister of Foreign Affairs, President's Counsel Ali Sabri, who was in Iran on an official visit, called on Iranian President Dr. Ibrahim Raisi in Tehran. During the meeting, the Iranian president said that his nation is ready to, despite the cruel sanctions, share the capabilities it has earned through progress made with friendly countries such as Sri Lanka. The Iranian head of state further emphasized on making the Joint Economic Cooperation Commission of the two countries more active. In response, Foreign Minister Ali Sabri congratulated the Iranian president on Iran's progress. The minister further expressed his interest in expanding cooperation with Iran in various fields. Speaking to Foreign Minister Ali Sabri, Iranian President Dr. Ibrahim Raisi said that the relations between the two nations have been constructive and developing since the beginning of the victory of the Islamic Revolution. Dr. Raisi further said that countries in the world like Sri Lanka have the capacity for progress which could pave the way to growth and prosperity if it were not for foreign, colonial and self-interested interference. Emphasizing on the productive activities of Iranian-owned companies in Sri Lanka, Minister Sabri announced the government's interest in expanding cooperation with Iran in various industries including the economic, technological and medical sectors.
Over thousands of young scouts were evacuated from the World Jamboree in South Korea following the emergence of the tropical storm Khanun. Scouts from 158 countries will be relocated to safe venues in the South Korean capital city, Seoul, and nearby metropolitan areas. Several countries had already left the campsite due to the prevailing heat conditions and poor sanitary conditions at the camp. Speaking to AdaDerana English News, the Sri Lankan ambassador in South Korea, Savitri Panabokke, said that the Sri Lankan scouts participating in the Jamboree are safe and her office is in regular contact with them.
Thousands of scouts at the World Scout Jamboree in South Korea are being currently evacuated from the campsite following news of an incoming typhoon. Typhoon Khanun, which has already forced evacuations and cut off power to thousands in Japan, is forecast to reach South Korea sometime around Wednesday. More than 1,000 vehicles will be deployed tomorrow to transport around 40,000 scouts from the World Scout Jamboree. As such, most of the scouts who came from 158 countries will be accommodated at venues in the capital of Seoul and nearby metropolitan area. World Scout Jamboree organizers said today that the South Korean government told them that it was no longer safe to hold the event. The government said it had adhered to the concerns of the World Organization for Scout Movements and national delegations who had been requesting they close the site for days. However, the South Korean Interior Ministry said that the event will continue despite the change of location due to the prevailing natural disaster. The ministry added that officials are in search of alternative venues and accommodation in and around Seoul. Attended by around 40,000 scouts, the World Scout Jamboree has been affected by problems from the very start. 177 Sri Lankan scouts are in South Korea for the International Scout Jamboree. AdaDerana English got in touch with the Sri Lankan ambassador in South Korea, where she said that the Sri Lankan scouts are safe.
Due to Typhoon Kanan doing landfall on 9th, which is Wednesday, the whole Jamboree participants are being evacuated by the government of Korea in coordination with the Scout Association of Korea as well as the Global Organization of the Scout Movement and the relevant embassies of participating countries. They are being moved to the Seoul metropolitan city area and around the place. At the moment, we are still awaiting further details regarding their relocation sites, but we know it's likely to be education and training institutes and sport complexes in and around Seoul. The typhoon is making landfall around Busan, which is about a 5-hour drive from Seoul, and it is more in the southeastern coast of the country. So Seoul is relatively more shielded from the typhoon, and also because they will not be in the open air mostly, this is a safer location for all scouts, numbering about 40,000 who are participating right now. We are closely liaising with the management of our scout contingent. We are daily in touch with them and seeking updates on their situation and assist them as we can. We are also in touch with the Korean authorities, the relevant ministries and the associations to do the needful. So right now we are in close contact with our contingent, the management, and we are assisting as required. They are not right now in Seoul. They will be coming starting from tomorrow. Right now they are in the Jamboree site, but they are all okay. The latest update we got is all our scouts are in good health and they're all fine.
We will be back after a short break. Stay tuned.
ගොඩමඩ පෙරලි කරන බලපුළුවන් කාරයා මහින්ද්‍රා යුවෝ ටීමෝ වෙතින්. වැඩම ගොඩයි ගොඩම තමයි. ස්වරාජ් ට්‍රැක්ටර් ටීමෝ වෙතින්.
Welcome back. An Indian trawler with 10 Indian nationals aboard were arrested in Sri Lankan waters during a special operation conducted by the Sri Lankan Navy this morning. The arrest had been made as the fishermen in question had been engaging in illegal fishing off the coast of Mullaitivu. In other news, a shooting incident was reported from the Bumblapiti area in Colombo this evening. Several officers of the Excise Department had opened fire on a parked vehicle at a fuel station, suspecting the presence of drug traffickers. However, no casualties or injured persons were reported. With that, let's take a look at more news in brief.
The Sri Lanka Navy apprehended an Indian trawler with 10 Indian nationals engaging in illegal fishing in island waters of Alampel in Mullaitivu during a special operation conducted this morning. The trawler with the 10 fishermen will be handed over to the Assistant Directorate of Fisheries in Trincomalee for further investigations. Meanwhile, a shooting incident was reported in the Bumblapiti area this evening. 4 officers of the Excise Department were arrested by the Sri Lanka police over reportedly opening fire at a car near a fuel station at Marine Drive in Bumblapiti, suspecting that those in the vehicle were drug traffickers. However, the Bumblapiti police stated that neither any casualties nor injured individuals have been identified following the scene. The Bumblapiti police is conducting further investigations regarding the matter. In other related news, the main suspect of the Kandana shooting incident was arrested by the Police Special Task Force yesterday. During the arrest, officers took custody of 2 grams and 350 milligrams of the ice drug and a mobile phone which were in possession of the suspect. The 26-year-old has been handed over to the Kandana police station for further investigations.
Japanese ambassador in Colombo, Mizukoshi Hideaki, says Japan is waiting for the full implementation of the National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security, which received cabinet approval early this year. Addressing an event in Colombo, the Japanese envoy said that this action was built with the support of Japan and the United Nations Women.
A panel discussion on challenges and good practices on women's economic empowerment and participation in decision-making processes in society, organized by the Japanese Embassy in Colombo along with Women in Management, was held at the Lakshman Kadirgamar Institute in Colombo today.
Japan has been engaged in discussions with the Sri Lankan government, leading to 2 main requests for support. The first one was to support the empowerment of women-headed households, especially the widows who were severely affected by the 26-year-long conflict in Sri Lanka. The second request for support was assistance in formulating Sri Lanka's National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security. With the cooperation of UN Women, Japan has shared our experience to Sri Lanka and supported drafting the plan and setting the Sri Lanka's policy on empowerment. This plan finally obtained Sri Lanka's cabinet approval in February of this year, and we are hoping to see its full implementation by relevant agencies of the government of Sri Lanka, thereby improving the participation and empowerment of women in this country.
The World Economic Forum have ranked us, I think, 55th place as far as when we talk about women and economy. I think we are a little lower than Japan in that sense. But I must say, even though the education levels or the literacy rate, that seems very high in the region, it does not actually reflect in the marketplace or in with regards to the job opportunities and the workplace. Because in recent years, the international community has placed greater emphasis on gender mainstreaming, which aims to reflect gender perspective in all policies and systems. And that is something that Sri Lanka also should thrive on.
Later, the panel discussion of the event was held.
The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development calls on countries to step up on efforts aimed on gender equality. How do you look at the Sri Lankan context of this?
I personally believe we need to have some bold decisions, really bold decisions to turn around the course of action. The public needs to get comfortable in seeing women's faces in certain roles. That has to start from there. I think Sri Lanka is moving in the right direction with various policy prerogatives, and on paper, in terms of legal provisions, Sri Lanka is doing good, but implementation has to follow. So I really hope that we'll be able to turn the course of action around very quickly.
So it's about leveling the playing field. But unfortunately, when we've started leveling the playing field, we need to ask the question as to why the playing field is unequal in the first place. Because we empower women, we train women, we build capacity, but we don't necessarily address why the playing field is unequal. And that is to do with not just empowering women, but we need to also engage with so many different other stakeholders. Men, for example, to challenge these social norms, challenge the policies. Sri Lankan policy framework is good, but it doesn't translate into action.
We worry about how others think, and we'd like to fit in. We don't want to stand out. And as long as we continue to do that, we can't get up the corporate ladder.
Since I took on risks and I learned to succeed and learn to learn every time you try and evolve your learning, you're unlearning and learning. And it's a very tough concept because you're giving up things. So eventually it leads to different roles, and I hold now the role of a CEO. And that's the first of Sri Lankan's conglomerate story.
Shares in Sri Lanka closed green today, continuing the bullish market for the 7th straight session as the buying interest returned with more economic stability and assurance seen in the markets. The main all-share price index was up 0.41% to close at 11,681.66 points, while the more liquid S&P SL20 closed 1.07%, up at 3,447.44 points. The highest gainers were John Keel's Holdings, Commercial Bank and Melster Corp. The market recorded a share volume of 105 million rupees, down from last week's 147 million rupees, while recording a total turnover of 3 billion rupees, down from 4.3 billion rupees. The banking sector was the highest contributor to the market during the day, followed by the capital goods sector and the diversified financial sector. Domestic traders were net sellers, selling 207 million rupees worth of shares, while foreign traders were net buyers, purchasing 207 million rupees worth of shares during the trading today. Now let's take a look at how the rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. Oil prices edged lower following a protracted rally helped by top producers Saudi Arabia and Russia pledging to extend oil supply cuts through September, further tightening supplies. Meanwhile, following a poor second quarter, China's economic data this week will be used to evaluate Beijing's interest for additional stimulus measures to assist the world's second largest economy.
Brent crude futures slipped 81 cents to $85.43 a barrel, while US West Texas Intermediate crude closed at $81.99 a barrel, down 83 cents. West Texas Intermediate futures dipped by $1 earlier in the session. Both key benchmarks notched their sixth consecutive weekly gains last week. On the supply side, the world's top exporter, Saudi Arabia, on Thursday extended its voluntary production cut of 1 million barrels per day to the end of September, keeping the door open for more. In line with production cuts, Saudi Aramco on Saturday raised the official selling prices for most grades it sells to Asia for a third month in September. Russia added to the crunch with its announcement to cut oil exports by 300,000 barrels per day in September. With these additional reductions and estimates of significant depletion in oil inventories in the upcoming months, the fundamental backdrop becomes undeniably favorable. In focus, however, is Chinese economic data this week to gauge Beijing's appetite for more stimulus measures to support the world's second largest economy, following a dismal second quarter.
That wraps up my news for you this evening. Do join us again tomorrow at the same time for an update on the news of the day. For now, I am Jonathan Benedict, wishing you a good night and a blessed week ahead.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.